Hello, my fellow book lovers. Welcome back to my channel. I know what you're thinking, Taylor. This video is so incredibly late. It is way past the mid-year point. Why are you filming this video? Or why are you just now uploading this video? Well, let me tell you, I don't know. I literally have been trying to sit down and film this video for a few weeks now, and for some reason, literally any day that I try and film it, like I just have so much other work that needs to be done that like I just didn't have time to film it. I'm just a normal girl. You know, I got things to do. I got a job that I still gotta go to. I gotta do this as a job. I gotta work on my podcast. Hello, you should go listen to that. I don't think I've ever said that on this channel that I have a podcast. I have a podcast I need to edit. I already mentioned the job. I have to clean a house. I just got a lot of stuff. Every time I've sat down and filmed this video, it just hasn't happened. I'm not gonna ramble on anymore about that because that's just not important. That's not what this video is. You know what this video is considering you clicked on it. And that is the mid-year book tag. I've seen a lot of YouTubers do this. I was debating on doing like a mid-year wrap up or doing this video. I literally think I made a wrap up for every single month so far on my channel somewhere. If you want to see all the books that I've read, you can either go to my Goodreads and look at that, follow me on Goodreads, or you can go back and watch some of my old wrap-up videos. Welcome to my mid-year book tag. I have my answers and stuff like that written down. I have the books laid out and everything. So let's just get right into the questions. Well, actually, let's get right into some statistics that I wrote down that I wanted to give you first. So my reading goal for the year is 80 books, and so far I've read 53, which is wild. Let me tell you, okay? That's just wild. The fact that I read 53 books already? Girlie, you're crazy. Go crazy, go wild, go stupid. I don't even know what that expression is, but that's just what immediately popped in my head. So I'm currently 10 books ahead of schedule. We love that. I've never been ahead of my reading goal. Some of the genres that I've read. Okay, so let me break down for you the genres that I've read. I'm a little embarrassed by this number. Actually, I don't know why I'm embarrassed because this is what I mostly read. I have so far read 39 romances, 9 fantasy, 2 thrillers, 2 literary fictions, and then I think 2 of those have been a DNF, if I did my math right. My math could be wrong, honestly. It probably is. I'm not very good at it. Yeah, so the 2 books I ended up DNFing actually, which is what I'll tell you. The Idea of You by Robin Lee, I think it was, and then The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Now I know what you're thinking. Taylor, how could you have DNF'd that book? And let me tell you, I just thought it was so incredibly boring. I'm not into historical fiction because I know people are gonna come at me for that one, for The Song of Achilles. People love it. My sister did tell me everything about the book because I asked. She read it. She said she cried. I'm just not a big fan of historical fiction. And plus it came to a point in the book where like the 2 main characters were together and happy for a good chunk of what I was reading. And I was like, I don't want to be sad. I actually kind of like just seeing them together. So I'm gonna close the book so that I can have this ignorant bliss forever. Let's get into the questions. Best book you've read in 2024. I know it says best book, but I'm gonna give you a series. That's just what came to mind when I saw this question. And that is the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. Yes, I know that these are the first 2 books. The other one's a big hardback, and this is just easier for me to carry and hold up. The Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, I absolutely loved this. I am obsessed. It like became my whole personality. If you have not read this trilogy yet, I highly recommend. I don't think she's done with this universe yet, which makes me so extremely excited. I did not read the Caraval trilogy, which is the prequel to this one, but you don't really need to. The only other insight is that those characters do a little bit of a crossover here in this first book, as well as Jax, one of the main characters in this book. He's in the first trilogy. So you get a little bit more insight to him, and you get a little bit more of his background and more of like, I think the Fate's background. Jax is a Fate, and I think you get a little bit more information into that as a whole. But either way, I don't think you need to read that because this I literally fell in love with like instantaneously. This just gives such romantic fairy tale vibes. Like it follows Evangeline Fox, who prays to the Prince of Hearts, who is Jax, to stop the wedding of the person that she believes to be the love of her life. He's getting married to someone else, and she wants to stop the wedding because she believes that they're supposed to be together. So she strikes a deal with the Prince of Hearts, and in exchange, he asks for 3 kisses. But the twist on it is that his kisses are fatal, and he, in the grand scheme of things, has big plans for Evangeline. It's very enticing. I absolutely fell in love with it. This was like hands down one of the best fantasy series I have ever read. It just gave such beautiful like fairy tale like romantic vibes. Like the writing style is also very romantic. Just like when you read it, like it flows so beautifully and just like connects really well. I've described it a different way before in my Once Upon a Broken Heart reading vlog. I did a whole vlog dedicated to reading this series. So if you want to go watch that video, please go do that because I enjoyed making it. It was a lot of fun. Favorite book, favorite series for this first question. Next up is the best sequel you've read so far this year. Obviously part of another series, but this series is actually all interconnected standalones. So the best sequel I read was Heartless by Elsie Silver in the Chestnut Spring series. That is my favorite book in the series by far. It is the one I constantly go back and think about. If I'm thinking about the Chestnut Spring series, I am thinking about Heartless. I am thinking about Willa and Cade. I don't know what it was. It was like a drug to me. I don't know. But I ate that shit up. Like I ate it up. So I feasted. There was no breadcrumbs left. Okay. If you don't know anything about the Chestnut Spring series, they're all interconnected standalones. They are like a cowboy romance. The second book, which is the one I just mentioned, was following Willa and Cade. Cade is a single father and he runs the ranch that his family lives on. And Willa is the best friend of the main character in the first book. She comes to the ranch for the summer so that she can nanny Cade's son. And we all know what goes down. So it is a single father, age gap, romance. It is chef's kiss. Age gap isn't weird either because she is 25, I'm pretty sure, in the book compared to like his age and her age. It doesn't feel bad or cringy or anything like that. Just so you know, because I know some people can be triggered by an age gap and I feel like their age gap is very much appropriate. Next question. A new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. You'd be surprised, honestly, considering I didn't really love the first book, but that is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I'm actually lying a little bit because I'm currently reading the book right now. I'm 100 pages in. I'm really enjoying it. I've actually been really looking forward to reading this because the way that the first book left off, like, just made it so enticing to continue the series. So I'm really excited where she goes with this. Things are heating up right now where I'm at in the book. So I'm excited to keep going and see how she decides to finish it off or finish off this book because I've heard it's crazy. Next question is the most anticipated release you have for the second half of the year. And that is Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. Better Than the Movies is one of my favorite books. It is in my top books, 5-6 star reads, okay? Like I still constantly think about that book and I read it almost a year ago at this point, and I absolutely fell in love with Liz and Wes, and I just loved them as a whole. Their story and their just like little dynamic was like almost so wholesome, the way that they fell in love with each other like as high schoolers. It was just a really cute, fun, enemies to lovers like read, and I am so excited for Nothing Like the Movies. Part of me is like, oh, I kind of wish that like she just left it as it was, which was like this happily ever after. But I think even in this second book, knowing some of the information of like where this sequel is coming from, and like I think they're gonna like fall back in love with each other from what I've seen. And that's not a spoiler because she's like put it out there. She's put out some excerpts from the book, so I'm really thinking that that's what it's gonna be like. I am so incredibly excited for Nothing Like the Movies. I cannot wait. I will be running to the bookstore, okay? Running. The biggest surprise, like the biggest book or the surprise, what am I saying? The book that surprised you the most. And that was A Funny Story by Emily Henry. As you guys know, I am not an Emily Henry stan. I am not a hater, but I'm not a stan. So the fact that this book, I had the lowest expectations for, and I literally was like, if this book isn't it, I think I'm just done with Emily Henry because like, I don't love her stuff, and every book that I've read other than like maybe Beach Read, but I don't even remember Beach Read, just like didn't hit. It just wasn't that entertaining. I thought it was boring, you know? So the fact that this book really like hit me over the head, that's surprising. That was like genuinely the biggest shock and surprise of my life, how much I actually enjoyed this book. Like I remember I read this in a reading vlog that you can go watch. Literally, I like think I read this one first because I was so ready for it to be a disappointment. And then it wasn't. And then I was like, damn, now all these other books have to live up to this one. And I absolutely love that one. And I can't believe that that was like the best book in that video, which was crazy. Biggest surprise was Funny Story by Emily Henry. I think if you're very big in the book world or anything like that, you definitely know what this is about. So I don't really feel like I need to go that into it. But this one just read like a true rom-com. I've said that before, and I will say that again and again and again, because it really was. Like, it was really funny. There was times I was like comically and like laughing out loud. Banter between the two characters was really, really great. The two main characters, like, they're like an unlikely pair, but they work really well together. So I think that was one of the other things that I really like loved about this book, was like that they could be themselves like totally with each other, and like it's not like something you would have expected out of the two of them in a relationship together. So yeah, this was my biggest surprise. The next one is your favorite author, debut, or new to you. So this year I read the Chestnut Spring series for the first time, and this was the first time I had ever read a book by Elsie Silver. So I'm gonna say honestly that Elsie Silver is probably favorite or new to me this year, because I binged basically every book that she had. Granted, I haven't read her like original series, but like I binged the Chestnut Spring series. Like I read all 5 of those books so quickly. I read her newest release, which I did enjoy, and I'm actually excited for the rest of those books to come out and read. And now I'm excited to go back and read like her debut like series to get a little bit more insight to see like how she's grown as an author compared to like the Chestnut Spring series. I love her books. I think that they're written very, very well, and the chemistry and the storylines and the plot lines that she has within all of the books, I feel like flow very nicely, and it doesn't feel like too cringe. She also knows how to write dialogue, which is a big thing for me. Like, if you write cringy dialogue, I'm sorry, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, some part of me just, I can't get through that sometimes, you know? But hers is not cringy. It feels very, very natural, which I do absolutely love. So I think that's probably one of the reasons, like, I like her so much, is because she's just such an easy author to read. Her books just feel so natural, and they flow really nice. Next up, we have newest fictional crush. That was hard, because I'm gonna be honest with you, the only fictional man I ever think about is Xaden from Fourth Wing. Okay, sue me. I don't know what to tell you. Have been other fictional men that I'm like, wow, I love them as a whole, because why wouldn't I? Sorry, I need a sip of water. But the two that like came to mind when I saw this one, because I didn't read Fourth Wing at all this year, so I'm not really including it into like the newest fictional crush. I put Jax from Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. I loved him. And then I put Theo, because there was 2 Theos that I've read this year. One was from Reckless by Elsie Silver. He has his own book. I absolutely loved him in the Chestnut Spring series. He is my favorite guy out of the entire Chestnut Spring series. And then I also just read You With a View by Jessica Joyce, and the main character's name in this one is also Theo, and I also absolutely loved him. I don't know what it is about men named Theo, but they just get me. But yeah, I would definitely say one of them as my newest fictional crush. Like, I don't know, like, there's none that I like particularly think about like often. It's just Xaden. So I don't know what to tell you. Okay, a book that made you cry. Now, when I was looking through my Goodreads, I was surprised. I was like, wait, have I not had a book make me cry this year? Which is surprising. But that isn't true, because one of the books I actually just read did make me cry, but it wasn't the one that I really wanted to use for this, because people are gonna be like, really? Like that's what made you cry? And that was Powerful by Lauren Roberts. You're probably thinking, what about that made you cry? Well, it made me cry because I felt so betrayed by Lauren Roberts, because the audacity of her to write this book and me read it knowing what was going to happen to the main character, that was rude of her, honestly. That was actually rude. I don't know why she thought, hey, this is a good idea. You know what happens at the end of Powerless. So I'm going to write a book about this girl who you know what happens to her at the end of the book. And then you're going to relive that situation from multiple different points of views. So yeah, it made me cry. We're not gonna talk about it anymore because it makes me furious. Moving on. A book that made you happy. Now, I actually forgot to write my answer for this one. A lot of books have made me happy. Tons of them. I'm really looking to see like if one like really jumps out at me, which I mean multiple do, but one that I recently read that made me happy, which was You With a View. I put this one off for so long, and I really shouldn't have, because it is one of my favorite books that I have read so far this year, and it was just so entertaining, and like the chemistry between the two main characters, and then the whole like plot line and like thought and inspiration behind the book was like really, really different to read about, I feel like. Like, yes, it was a romance, but like the adventure that she goes on and the people that she meets and the relationship she forms while going through this like hard time in her life, I really did enjoy. I just thought it was good. Okay, it was a really really wonderful story. It made me happy while I was reading it. So, the most beautiful book you've bought this year or received. Now, I haven't read this book, but I'm gonna say it definitely is the most beautiful book, or I feel like is one of the most beautiful covers of a book that I have, and that is Never by Jessa Hastings. Like, just look at that. Just look at that. Look at that. Isn't that is so pretty. Another one actually by another book that I literally recently read. I think I read it in June, and that is This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. Like, look at this. It must just be like the watercolor, like painting style of the books. So pretty, so beautiful. Like, but the first one that came to mind was Never by Jessa Hastings. I don't know much about this book. I do know that it's just like a Peter Pan retelling, I think. Next question is, what books do you need to read by the end of this year? I have quite a few. First one I think that actually does come to mind, not any of the recent ones that I bought that are sitting right here. The Throne of Glass series. I have been waiting to read this series for quite a while now, and I'm just trying to find the right time to read it, honestly, because I know that once I start, I won't stop. Like, there is nothing going to be in my way of finishing this series and reading the entire thing in one sitting. Like, I know that I won't be able to read any other books in between, because how am I going to do that to myself? How am I going to start this series and then be like, I'm going to read another book in between, knowing that they're all out? Why would I be so stupid? No. So yes, the Throne of Glass series is definitely one of the books, or one is a series that I definitely want to read before the year ends. But like I said, I'm just trying to find the right time to, because it's just going to be difficult. It's going to be a difficult time trying to figure out how to read this entire series in one sitting and it not take me, a whole month or so. I don't know. Next up, how many 5-star reads this year? Honestly, only one. I've only had one 5-star read this year, which is kind of crazy. I just don't give out 5 stars so willy-nilly, I've had a lot of books that are very close to a 5-star, but none that are. The only one that has been a 5-star for me is The Ballad of Never After. This is the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. And like I said, this is one of my favorite books series of the year so far. If that doesn't tell you anything, then I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, so this is the only 5-star I've had so far. I'm hoping that I find another one before the year ends. But like I said, I just don't give them out willy-nilly. I have recently, okay, let me give you some perspective on what I think a 5-star and how it happens, okay? I have a book. 2 books sitting on my shelf. One is actually better than the movies. When I first read that book, I was like, no, it wasn't 5 stars, blah, 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 blah. Literally a week later, I said, how the fuck did I not give that a 5 stars? Because it was all I was thinking about as I was reading other books. I would think about Liz and Wes all the time, and I don't know how I didn't give that a 5 stars. Now, there's another book that I read over a year ago that I didn't just give a 5 stars until probably last month. I didn't even reread the book. I literally was thinking to myself and talking about it for another video, and I was like, this is a 5-star book. I don't know how I only gave it 4.5 stars, because I'm still thinking about it. I'm still talking about it, still recommending it to people. It just takes me a while. You know what I mean? So I just don't give them out like candy. I'm just really hoping that I find another one. What books do you want to reread this year? I'm currently working on videos for rereading my 5-star reads. I've only done one so far, which was The Love Hypothesis. That I already did do a reread on. The next one that I actually have is Better Than the Movies. I think I want to reread this one before Nothing Like the Movies comes out, just so that I can go back and read it and do a fun little reading vlog with it. Like I said, I absolutely love this book, so really want to reread some of my 5 stars before the year ends. But if I only get to doing the one, that's fine, because I have so many books I want to read. It's crazy. A book you enjoyed with mixed reviews. Now, I couldn't come up with a book for this question, because when I was looking through my Goodreads, there was no book that I had read that had really mixed reviews that I really liked that other people didn't. You know what I mean? I really thought about it, and I was like, I don't think there is one. And I'm looking at some of the books now, and some of the books over there on my shelves, the only one I can think of is maybe Hooked by Emily McIntyre. And this book is not everybody's cup of tea, and I get that. I didn't even think it's going to be my cup of tea, but I did actually really enjoy it for what it was. And if you know, if you look at the trigger warnings and you know what the book is and when you're going into it, I think you can enjoy it for what it is, because, it's fake. It's not real. This type of thing, it's not a thing that I hope really happens. You know what I mean? So granted, it probably is, but not to the extent of what's in here. Yes, this is not everybody's cup of tea, but I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 3.5 4.75 or 4 stars. I don't know. You know, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, different than I had ever read before. But that's the only one I could think of, especially right now. And the last question is 5-star predictions for the rest of the year, which is again another question I didn't know how to answer because, like I said, I don't give out 5 stars just very willy-nilly. I do have a bunch of books that I recently just bought over here. Any 5-star prediction, it's going to be a book from probably a Throne of Glass series if I end up reading that this year, which I probably will because I really want to read it. A few of these books I've heard great things about that could be potentially 5 stars. One of Annabelle Monaghan's books, I read one of her books this year, which I ended up really loving just recently, could be a 5 stars for me. The other one, I think I gave a 4 stars. And that's actually her lowest rated book that I read first. Ones both have very high ratings on Goodreads. I think that one of these could probably be a 5-star reads for me. And then we also have The X-Vows, which is a new book that came out by Jessica Joyce. This is the same author as You With a View that I just read that I ended up giving a 4.5 stars, which I really loved. I loved her writing style, and I've heard even better things about this one. Only from the people who have like received the ARC and stuff like that, because it just come out. So I haven't seen many people read this one yet as it was out, but many people who received the ARC said that they very much enjoyed this one. So I could see this one potentially being a 5 stars, but I don't know. And then lastly, another one that I could see being a 5 stars. And now I don't even know if I'm going to read this or when, because it's part of an interconnected standalone series and I haven't read the first 2 books, but I really do want to read this one. Everybody says that you have to read, like that you definitely should read them in order, but I don't even have the first book. But I bought this one. I picked up the 2 books, right? I picked them up. Picked up the first one and I picked up this one. And I looked at them and I said, I'm still gonna get this one and put the other one back, which was really dumb. I probably should have just gotten both of them and put something else back, but it's whatever. It's whatever. But I've heard amazing things about Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. So I've never read a book by her either. So like I literally couldn't even tell you if I even like her books. I have a feeling that this one could again potentially be a 5 stars for me because so many people loved it and said it was really great. So I have faith. Those were all the questions on the mid-year book tag. Like I said, I'm really sorry how late this video is, okay? Please don't come for me. Please don't blame me. Like I said, I'm just a girl. I don't know what to tell you. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thanks for hanging out with me and listening to me talk about books. You know, my favorite thing to do ever. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on all of my social medias as well as subscribing to my channel. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.